Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Thursday, March 20th. We're back. We got a 5-game slate on both sides. I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann, and I'm going to be breaking it down. But first, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all for one low price. Now, let's jump into this bad boy position by position. As always, starting with point guard, we got Malik Monk, 7,600, 36-point projection, 32% owned. I'm definitely pretty interested in Monk. Big thing here, and it's a wild card. We may not know if Zach LaVine is going to play, prior to these games starting. But LaVine was out for a personal reason. Not sure what's going on, but it's a personal reason, and sometimes those type situations are longer than one game absent. So if there's no LaVine, it gives Monk a huge bump up. But even with LaVine on the court, I'm still a little bit interested. 234 total, big total on this slate. And Bulls have just been terrible and pretty much tanking, but not totally tanking like some other teams. Steph Curry, 8,800, 29% owned. He took yesterday off, or the last game off. He is back. It's versus the Raptors, who aren't good. We know Curry has a huge upside. However, they're going to give every opportunity to give Steph Curry some rest when they can in the game. If this game is going to be blowing out, I would expect his minutes to be more like 28 to 30. If it's a tight game, then he has, that 35, 36 minute upside. So I think playing Curry is really a situation where you probably want a Raptor. Now, it's very hard to pick which Raptor you want because they've pretty much just been spreading minutes out, and nobody's really getting enough run to go nuts. However, it is a situation, if somebody gets hot, they probably get a little more run with Toronto. So they're really not going to be popping up in optimizers much, and it's a way to get different on a small slate too. Gabe Vincent, 4,100, 20% owned. Expectation is that he probably is in the starting lineup. He's playing decent minutes. Even if he's not in the starting lineup, he's 4,100. There's no Luka, no LeBron. Vincent's fine. Pivot-wise, D'Angelo Russell, 6,400. He is a big fantasy point per minute guy. He can be very efficient and put up some big numbers. In a decent spot versus the Pacers, I'm fine getting different with going to some D'Lo. The issue here is that they're only giving him, 28, 29 minutes of run. At least he's only 6,400. Next, we got Miles McBride, 6,200. It's versus the Hornets, who obviously are pretty bad, being 17 and 51. The one thing I would say here is, one, that he is a game time decision. We're not totally sure if he's playing, and if he is, I like him. The other aspect is, I think if they're going to try and give somebody from the starting lineup a little bit of rest, meaning not the full allotment of minutes, I think it's Cat on this slate. And with that, I think Miles has a solid chance at his real minutes. He played 31 last night, only 29 the day before, back-to-back blowouts. We'll see what he's doing on a back-to-back, but with it being a back-to-back, there is a little bit more likelihood of the game being close. Damian Lillard, 8,600. Crazy thing is, it is the Luka-less Lakers, no LeBron-less Lakers, and this is the closest game on the slate. 6-point favorites, the Bucks versus the Lakers. I am interested in Lillard, and with that being said, with the fact that this is the closest game, there is very, very high likelihood of some blowouts on this slate. One of these games stays a little closer, or they just play starters longer, even though it's a blowout. then that game could be kind of needed. So I kind of like leaning into, mini game stacks on this slate. I think it's going to be a little bit of a way to get different, and could be the way you win a tournament, just because if one of these games that has a big spread stays close, and it's not expected to, then it becomes a lot more interesting, and that underdog you're probably going to need some of. All right. D. Lillard, interested in him. Point guard on DK, we got Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Cameron Payne. Reeves is an obvious one here. He went absolutely nuts for 76 last time that it was no Luka, no LeBron. It is going to be his show again. It is his opportunity to keep this team in the game. And he's up for the challenge generally, so very interested in Reeves for this spot. 9,100 is a crazy number for him, but 47, 53, 49, 76 over the last 4. I mean, he keeps doing it. I don't mind having some of them. D-Lo we covered. Campaign just popping up simply because he is near minimum and going to play some 15 to 20 minutes, and he's a high fantasy point per minute player. So don't mind getting a little bit, but don't go overboard. Shooting guard on FanDuel, we got Jordan Goodwin, 4,700. I would rather go Goodwin than Gabe Vincent. Personally, he is a better fantasy point per minute guy, and I would expect him to play some solid minutes in this game. I would expect him to play a little bit more than Goodwin Vincent, or right around the same. He's only 600 more. He's at 0.85 fantasy point per minute, whereas Vincent is 0.67 or 6.5. I would give that huge edge to Goodwin in this situation. Austin Reeves, 8,700. I'm going to have a ton of them on FanDuel also. Malik Monk, we covered. Pivot-wise, Dalton Knecht, 4,500. There is a chance he slides back into the starting lineup. When he starts, and it's been in games like this where Lakers are sitting guys, he's been playing some big minutes and has had a solid upside, so definitely interested. Now, if he doesn't start, I do still expect him to play solid minutes. He probably plays 25, 26 off the bench. And if he gets hot, there's absolutely, ways he can play additional minutes, even coming off the bench. So I like the ceiling opportunity for Knecht going a little low owned. McBride, we covered. Levine, 7,500. We covered him. We haven't fully covered him. We talked about him. I'm interested in Levine if he's playing, but he does have a personal matter going on. We have no idea if he's going to be in or out yet. It was a late scratch last night, so I don't know what happened, but there was something that he had to leave, had to bail. I would say there's a good chance that he's out today. If so, obviously don't play him. Boost everybody else up, all the starters up. But if he is in, I think he's interesting. And obviously coming in low owned. Shooting guard, Jordan Goodwin, Reeves, Bridges, Miles Bridges, 6,200. Obviously interesting. Still no Brunson. If the Hornets are able to stay in the game, which they have, stayed into some games surprisingly against much better teams, then Bridges and all these Knicks starters are going to look interesting just because how many minutes they play. And this is a slate where there's several teams that, are tanking and not really playing their guys big minutes. Small forward on FanDuel, we got Austin Reeves. We got Kyle Kuzma and Taurean Prince. Kyle Kuzma is down to 5,500. We know there is an upside occasionally. He is going back to LA where he started his career. I don't want to say it's a revenge game, but he's going back to LA, and maybe there's a little chip on his shoulder being back there, but we haven't totally seen that in the past. I am slightly interested in Kuzma. He's only been like 0.73 or 0.75 fantasy points per minute with the Bucks, so hasn't been good, but I still think he's a little bit better of a player than that. Taurean Prince, 4,100. I think he's a very interesting value option just because we know he's going to be on the court a lot and he can hit the three ball. If the three ball starts going in, then there's 30 points upside at 4,100. And right now there's very little value on this slate. Pivot time, Josh Hart, 8,100. I love Josh Hart playing giant minutes for this team and huge upside just because he does so much for the team. You know, plays defense, rebounds, assists, scores a little bit. I don't mind getting to some Josh Hart. Zaire Williams, 4,900 versus the Pacers. Not the greatest spot for him versus the Pacers, who are number one versus small forward. But at 4,900, playing 28 minutes for a team and getting decent usage, you could do worse at 16% ownership. Don't love it, but don't mind it. Levine, we covered. OG, 7,200, just playing too many minutes not to at least consider on this slate. Small forward on DraftKings, Goodwin, Bridges, DeRozan. DeRozan, if Levine sits, gets my biggest boost here, and I would probably have a lot of him in that situation. Didn't work yesterday, but maybe it does today. Power forward on FanDuel, Kuzma, DeRozan, Hart, covered all of them. Draymond, 6,700, I think is super interesting. I would expect him to start once again today. He played big time minutes without Curry last game, but I think there is a decent chance that he's back to center with Podziemski healthy, and I find that super interesting. I don't mind some green for sure. Watford's 4,400. We know he has big time upside, high fantasy point per minute guy. He's just not going to get that many minutes. It is a total gamble. Don't mind rolling the dice a little bit. Wouldn't go too hard on him. Giannis right now is pretty hard to get to, but at 11.7K versus the Lakers, I do find him interesting, but he is kind of priced high for what he's been doing lately. 60s is fine. And if he's the only guy on the slate that goes for, say, above 50 and he puts you a 60, you may need to have him. But I don't totally love his spot. Think he is going under-owned for what he can do and for the value that's on here. But I got to take some chances at that highest score on the board for the night. Power forward on DK, Draymond, Kuzma, Giannis. Over here on DK, where Giannis is much higher owned, I would probably be coming in a little under the field. As long as a ton of value doesn't open up, that is. And center on FanDuel. Cat, Draymond, Watford. Cat's obviously fine to get to. Huge upside, 9,700. Can give you a 50 burger any day of the week. Hasn't been playing the greatest lately, but he has been trending up again. Do worry a little bit about how many minutes he might play in a back-to-back, but Hornets can definitely be got. Draymond, we covered. Watford, we covered. Joval, 7,400. Obviously, there's no Sabonis. He played 25 minutes, did get into some foul trouble last night. I think he is probably more likely to play 28-ish if he's not getting into foul trouble, and giant ceiling. So I am absolutely interested in him, but it's not without risk. 25 minutes starting last time before that 14 and 22. So, we do have to worry about his minutes. 26 is probably conservative and a good spot for him. As far as what we have. Also, Jackson Hayes, 5,200. Only played 24 minutes last night, but I think in this spot where there's no Luka, he could get up to 28-ish, and that makes him a little bit interesting. With no Luka, no AD, no LeBron, he's at 1.12 fantasy points per minute. 5,200, that's very, very interesting if he's going to play that many minutes. If he only plays 24, you probably don't need to have him, though. On to center on DraftKings. Cat, Draymond, Giannis. We covered them all. That'll do it for us today, guys. A quick one. Hope you guys are doing solid with your brackets. We'll be back with tomorrow's big-time Friday slate, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace!